Welcome to Robeytech. I am your host, Justin Roby. This is a show dedicated to PC building, tech news, tech deals, dad jokes, tech dad, hashtag tech dad, like all that sort of stuff. We got a lot going on there. Okay, here we go. Let's start with the build. Let's start with the CPU. Like we talked about, this is the i5-10400. This is a 6-core, 12-thread CPU. This is not overclockable, but it is $182. It was originally $200. They've already dropped it down to $182. It's sitting at 2.9 gigahertz. And then from a gaming perspective, this is actually supposed to be on par from a just gaming performance perspective as a Ryzen 7 3700X. But we're going to test that. We're not for sure. We don't know for sure, but we're going to see in our testing today. So there's that. That's the CPU. This CPU actually does come with a stock cooler. We're going to test it with a stock cooler, but we do have another cooler. It's the Hyper 212 Black Edition from Cooler Master. For the GPU to go with it, because we had some extra money, we went with the Ryzen 7. Sorry, the Ryzen 7. the GeForce RTX 2060 KO Ultra. So the KO Ultra is the higher end of the KO. I always recommend the KO. The KO Ultra is actually the higher end. This is the higher bend of the GPUs. Again, understanding the KO Ultra, the thing that you think about is this is the 2070s and 2080s that did not make it from a binning perspective. Basically, EVGA bought them all and then stuck them in their KOs. Now, when you compare this, a lot of people say, well, Roby, why not a 5700 XT or even a 5600, which actually does, from a gaming standpoint, perform better than a 2060. The problem is that you miss RTX, which a lot of people care about, and with next-gen consoles coming out, RTX ray tracing will mean a whole lot more. The second thing is that because I always want to provide for streaming and in-vec encoding is so important, that's why I choose NVIDIA. The third thing is that when you play games like Dota, League of Legends, it doesn't matter if you have a more powerful card, because more games are tuned for NVIDIA, they have a tendency to perform. So if you're going to play any legacy titles or older legacy titles, then NVIDIA always performs better than AMD. So those are my reasons. I have yet, it's not to say that I don't like AMDs. I do have 5700 XTs in in a lot of my small form factor PCs, but again, it's really hard for me to recommend them just given some of those things. I hope, like everything's happened with AMD and processors, that will become a whole lot easier as we get further along in the GPU market, specifically given we're so close to the release of Big Navi, and hopefully that'll make things better. Specifically given that both the PS5 and the Xbox Series X are both running AMD processors, which means hopefully we'll see more games, especially these high-end PC ports, that will be better optimized for AMD, making it a lot easier to recommend. So that's why I just want to give you an update on that. For RAM, I love these kits. And again, this is like I've done so many just high-end builds as of late. To get to go back and do something a little bit more reasonable is a lot of fun. So this is the Corsair Vengeance LPX 16 gigabytes of RAM, 3200 megahertz. It's XMP, so we should be more than good enough in terms of running it at 3200 megahertz, and you're still going to get that extra boost speed, which at 1080p actually does matter. For motherboard, and you know, it's funny, I almost threw this in a different board, but I was like, hey, I want to be the same. So we're going to use the same one that I recommend. This is the Prime Z490M. For M.2, we recommend the Crucial because we want to play games right away. We're actually going to be throwing an Intel M.2 in there because it's already got the OS on it and all that sort of stuff. So we're already fully loaded. But the Crucial P1 being at $104, really, really good deal. So if you're looking at this, and this is sub $1,000 now. For power, we're using the EVGA 650 B5. It's an 80+ bronze certified, fully modular. I've used a lot of EVGA recently. Nice, really easy price at $89. 650 watts is more than enough power. Let me tell you this, on cases, Cooler Master's been kind of killing it this year. Between the TD500 and now the MB311, these are rated as some of the best airflow cases that have come out, and especially this case, and it is micro ATX, so that's the other thing too, I forgot to let you know, this is a small form factor, so this is gonna be a small build, but for what is essentially $60 for for what you get in this is actually really awesome. Includes 2 RGB fans, we're gonna throw in a fan in the back, but all in all, pretty awesome. Okay, first and foremost, everybody stand up. Okay, center your focus in. We're gonna get our build, we're gonna get the build gods. You can see Tech Jesus. We're gonna get the good vibes going. The dad jokes are starting to flow. Everybody just kind of take that moment because we're gonna build a PC today. It's gonna post, we're gonna have some fun playing a little bit of games. Okay, here we go, let's get it going. This is our motherboard. We always like to do the tour. Right here, this is our socket. This is LGA 1200. The one thing I will say is a lot of people, I do get this question quite a bit times, is like, hey, given that they've updated the socket, do I have to worry about if I install a cooler or anything like that if there's a problem now that they've upgraded? No, it's still the same in terms of installation for your AIOs. All of your stuff is backwards compatible. The only thing is you can't stick like a 9th gen or 8th gen Intel into this socket. So that's the only thing from a difference there. Over here to the right, these are your DIMM slots. These are for memory. We got 4 here. They're actually different color. This is something I've noticed a lot more with ASUS. The dark gray is the black is one channel. The dark gray is a second channel. The pair together, one black, one gray equals channel 1. The second black, the second gray equals channel 2. So this is A1, A2, B1, B2. You have to put one either together. So you have to have one in this case, if you want to activate dual channel, you have to stick it in A2 and B2 to activate D channel. Dual channel, if you had 4, then you'd stick it in A1, A2, B1, and B2. Because we're only using 2 sticks, you'll see me install that to activate dual channel. You do not stick them next to each other, then you'll only have single channel. You won't be getting the full power of your RAM. Okay, up here in the top left, these are your EPS CPU power connectors. You only need, and you will see me only use, you only need the 8-pin. The 4-pin is usually in addition for doing what's called extreme overclocking, like for instance LN overclocking, but because we can't overclock, we're not going to be using that. Right here, these are our CPU and AIO fan headers. So these are fan headers. The one that we care about is the one that's in the top, which is our CPU one. That's where we're going to connect our header, our CPU header, so that way it knows that there's a fan involved. This right here is your motherboard power. You have 2 USB 3.2 right here, or USB 3. SATA connections right here. You've got 4. This is your front panel connection right here. This actually has TPM. TPM is a security measure, so if you're going to do stuff like BitLocker or encrypt your files, this is where your TPM chip would go. We have an additional SATA connection here. We have 2 more fan headers for a total of 5. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 fan headers on the board. You've got 2 USB 2. You've got an RGB, an addressable RGB header, and then you've got your HD audio over here to the left. You've got 2 by 16 and a by 8 PCI slot. You've got 2 by 1s, plus you've got 2 additional M.2. So you've got a 1 and 2. Now remember, on Z490, none of these are PCIe Gen 4. Some do support PCIe Gen 4, but because Intel doesn't support PCIe Gen 4, sticking a PCIe Gen 4 M.2 into this is not going to help you at all. That's the motherboard in a glance. I like to go through this. Some people don't know. Let's get our CPU out and go from there. Couple things about this. This actually does include a stock cooler. You can actually see that stock cooler right there. It's not crazy, but it's going to be more than capable given that we're using a high airflow case for what we're going to do today. If you want to upgrade, I'll have a recommendation. I'll put it in there. We've got a Hyper 212. It's about a $30 cooler if you wanted to do something a little bit nicer. So there is our cooler right there. And it actually does have pre-applied thermal paste already. And this just like, it looks like it just clips on. Yeah, it's pretty simple in terms of your cooler. So we'll be trying that and see what our thermals are like, and then go from there. And then here is our CPU right here. It's all locked in here. So the way this works is there's a little, just so you guys can see, there's a little latch in here that comes out. There you go. And then this comes out of the plastic. All you're gonna do is you're gonna go to the top left, you're gonna open this up, you're gonna try very hard not to have it shoot out like a gun, just like, you're gonna grab it from the side, just pull it out like that. And then a couple things, just remember about when you're doing, when you're touching these things. You shouldn't use it as a mirror to hunt Medusa. Like, that's not a thing you shouldn't do it for. The way this works is we're gonna go ahead and pull this out like so, pull this up. And there's 2 little dimples on the side. You'll see there's 2 little dimples on the side of the CPU there. And there's a little gold arrow. All you're gonna do is line it up, and then you'll know that you're installing it correctly because the orientation for the text on the CPU is actually horizontal. So just wanna drop it right in like so, and then you can just check it by wiggling it a little bit. And you're gonna pull this down. This is gonna go underneath this latch, and then like magic, this little black thing is just gonna pop off. Don't throw that away, because sometimes when you have to return the motherboard manufacturers, they require you to return that with it. Next thing that we're gonna do, we're gonna grab our cooler. When you twist these, there's a little pin that goes inside of them, but if you twist them the wrong way, that pin will not go, it will not engage. You have to make sure they're all twisted, so all of these are turned, all the arrows are turned towards the center. It's like an IKEA thing. All the arrows are turned towards the center, and we're just gonna sit it down on all the holes, right? So you make sure it's in all the holes. And then what it says is the first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna plug this in here, like so. And then this is the first one. So this should just pop in. It should. It's not been the case so far. There it goes. Okay, there's that one. It goes 1. So there's 1. And then 2 is on the other side. 2 is there. And then 3 is here. And then 4 is right here. Come on. There you go. And then, once they're all in, like that, you then twist them, turn them to lock them. And now, if you look at the bottom, everything is locked. Okay, let's install our RAM. The way that RAM works is, remember guys, so we have a little slot in the PCB right here. What you do is just stick that in just like that, and then you'll get a nice little satisfying click! That wasn't very satisfying. Click, click! This cable here is driving me bonkers. That gave me a lot more room. Okay, there we go. That's better. I wanted to show you, like, you could use the stock cooler. This is what you're gonna get. I don't want to, like, again, trying to save you, like, what is the, like, in terms of budget, but if you have a little bit of money to spend, install that, use the Hyper 212 Black. Let's go ahead and install our M.2 real quick. There's our screws, and there is our I/O plate. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna install our standoff. So on here, you can see it says there's 2242, 2260, and 2280. That is millimeter length for the for the M.2 slot. So all we're gonna do is we're gonna just take this to 2280, which is the length of the M.2, most M.2s. Most M.2s are 2280. And we're gonna put it right like this. There we go. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our little M.2, and you can see there's a little break in the in the PCB just like that. What we're gonna do is just stick it in. There we go. Then you just, oh, that one just goes in there. So we won't even have to worry about it. Okay, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab our super tiny screw, and boom. Okay, so now our M.2 is in. Let's go ahead and get our case out. So we've taken that off. One thing about this build is right here in the back, it comes with, here is your other micro, your other thing, so it just pops in there. It's stored in the back. You don't need it, just as an FYI. Overall, pretty simple case. All your little stock, all your little components and stuff are in the back here, just as an FYI. The thing that's crazy about this, for 60 bucks, all of the stuff that's included in this is also, it's also got drive trays. It's got an RGB controller, so you can actually do an external RGB controller, which is pretty nice. There's a lot of stuff that they included for $60, which is impressive. Everything that you need for RGB and everything like that is right here. So they even got fan splitters. In the back here, you have to remove your PCI things before. So determine where your card is gonna go and remove these beforehand. It's a little harder when the motherboard's installed. We're gonna quickly remove the ones that we need for our GPU. And now from there, we can install our motherboard. Okay, so what you're gonna do is you're gonna take your I/O shield. If you're installing this exact same motherboard, this is gonna go on your top right. And then this is basically the layout. The way it's gonna go is you're gonna put it in this little square in the bottom, and you're gonna listen for a click. It's okay to push it kind of hard. You just wanna make sure it goes all the way in. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our motherboard, and the standoffs are already in here. What you're gonna do is you're just basically going to set it down like so, and then push it all the way against the edge there. And then these little metal things are just kind of a pain in the butt, so you just want to be really careful about making sure that it doesn't clip on any of the metal. Okay, so that's a good installation. I'll show you what it should look like. So as you can see, that's okay. These are all okay. None of our things are blocked by the little metal pegs, and so you're good there. Okay, once that's done, you can see all our standoffs are good. Now we're gonna grab our screws and get that installed. We're gonna install our fan. There we go. Okay, I'll tell you what, guys. You guys just really want me to update are you guys really just wanting me to update the cooler? Fine, we'll just take this thing. We're gonna take the dang stock cooler off. Well, we're gonna get rid of this garbage cooler, and I would just say don't use the Intel i5 stock cooler. Okay, it's off. Everybody's happy. Okay, just so you guys know, everybody can watch. This is what I would recommend for the Intel stock cooler. This is what I'd recommend for the Intel stock cooler, because I just think that if I am in full agreement, don't use that cooler. And light it on fire. Okay, so if you're gonna do this, don't use the stock cooler. Let's put a real cooler on it. There we go. Okay, everything's off there. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward in terms of this fan plugs into the CPU. It's like it's not a complicated. It's just the only thing you have to worry about is the mount stuff. The first thing I had to do is get the bracket installed. The first thing we're going to do is let's go ahead and put our clip together. On the back plate, it actually tells you which one's Intel. So Intel is these ones right here. So this is the ones we're going to use for Intel, and the other ones are for AMD. So this is all our installation hardware. The way this basically works is you stick these in like this. And then what you do is you grab the eye, and then this just goes right over it like so. And that's all there is to it. And then now you've got your standoffs. You're going to do this for each one of these little sections here. And then now we've got a completely built backplate. All I need is these. Everything else just goes back into this. Is all AMD components. Okay, so here we go. Last thing we're going to need is we're going to take this off. So the way this is going to work, I'm just going to unclip this. So that goes like that, and then same thing on this side. Take that off. And there's our little brackets. This is just going to come off, and we'll use that later. And then this is what you need for when we put it on. I'm going to install our brackets. These just screws in just like this. So for the case, on the back here, turn this over. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take our little bracket. You can see it's already kind of set up, and you're going to kind of get it to, you're going to move it until you can get all of these kind of in the hole. They're usually like pretty far out. There we go, that's pretty close. There we go. Okay, so there it is. That's your brackets installed. Then you're going to hold it. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it on its side. These little nuggets right here. We're just going to screw those on. Screw one on. And then once you have two on, you can lay it on its back and finish this off. There we go. Okay, now last part is grab our little tightener, which we have right here. We're just going to tighten these down. You don't have to go too crazy, just tight enough. There we go. Okay, now it's all tightened. Now we can do our thermal paste painting. Woohoo, Bob Ross. Eat your heart out. There we go. Bob Ross in it. I'm painting some happy little trees. Okay, next stop. Now it's off. Okay, so we're going to start it. And we're just going to do a nice star pattern. That's now installed. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to install our fan. And remember, you want to stick it because we're going to push through. So you want to stick your fan. You want to stick your fan like this. You want to make sure the fan is pointed this way and this is this way. That's pulling air through. What we're going to do is just stick it like this, and then we're going to clip it on. Remember, this goes in the back. This is a lot harder when you actually have the build in the case, but it goes in the back screw, like that, and then you just pull. There's that one. There we go. Okay, there you go. Fan is on. This is in. We're going to go ahead and quickly, what we'll do is we'll pull this through. Now we're going to be able to do our front panel connectors and get all this stuff hooked up. Okay, rear fan going in the top right. These are the front panel connectors. What we're going to do is first one goes right here. USB 3 actually goes out of the side, like that. And then HD audio goes way over here. So there's our connector for our rear fan. And so there's all our fans are connected. So you can take this, and put this right here. So that'll be all of our fans. And then the last thing I need is this, which we're going to use the addressable RGB for. So we're going to put this right here as well. And that's all of our connections. USB 3 right here in the top left. This is basically just going to go right here. There we go. There's USB 3. So front panel, we have power plus, minus. We have all of them here. Yay! There we go. Hard drive. Reset. There we go. Next up, power switch. Goes above that. There we go. Power plus goes next up. Okay, there's front panel connectors, done. Next up, we have no USB 2, but we do have a fan header. Kind of weird here. Undo our fan header. Fan header is going to go right here. Takes care of fans. So all of our fans are now connected. That's something that's really nice about the Cooler Master case. It's just the fact that it's actually got that splitter. I'm going to do this HD audio cable. There we go. So we'll actually have to install the controller. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. And while we're back here, we'll just go and do our cable management. There's our RGB header all hooked up. And there's just going to be power, and then we'll have this in the back so people can change, so we can change colors and figure out what color we want. Okay, let's go ahead and cable manage this real quick. We have a bajillion cables. We need a dad joke. If you see a robbery at an Apple store, does that make you an eyewitness? What kind of magic do cows believe in? Moodoo. Okay, so that looks much better. Our build is much cleaner now. Okay, let's get our GPU in. Boom, GPU is out. Just enough room here. I think this build came out looking good. It's like good looking. There we go. Looks good. Okay. There we go. That's in. There you go. Let's go ahead and do our cables real quick. These should be fast. Okay, there we go. We're getting we're installing our black cables here. There we go. Okay, nice clean build there. Okay, last cable. There we go. Nice clean looking build. Simple, clean, elegant. Okay, last part. Last part. So we've hooked up our SATA. Okay, there's our motherboard. Next one is our CPU connector. And you see right here at the top right, it says CPU, so you just plug that in, just like this. The split in is the part that you don't plug in. And then over here is, we only need one VGA, so we're just gonna plug that VGA into VGA 1, like so. Okay, there we go. And now our PSU is ready to go. There we go. Okay, now, lift this up. Okay, now all we're doing is just gonna screw in our last little screws here. Every once in a while, through trial and tribulation, we end up with a very good looking build. Okay, we need our okay, so SATA, because these are what's gonna power the RGB. I'm gonna put this way down here. Change our light colors here in a bit. Then what I try and do, I try and push this like right here. So the button is actually so he can find it, or so I can find it. This is CPU. There we go, CPU's in. Okay, then VGA, which goes right here. There we go, VGA's in. There we go, and then finally, come on, baby. Oh, there we go. Okay, it's all in. The build is done. So now let's see if it turns on, is the question. With all of the cooler changes and all that sort of stuff, does this even turn on? Okay, here we go. Oh, look at that.
We got lights.
We got lights. We got power. Oh, and we have a post. Just so you guys know, it posted. Does it perform like we expect it to? That is the question now that we are here to answer. 3D Mark is a great place to start in terms of seeing where it's at. So, but yeah, in terms of like its frame rate and stuff like that, it runs really well. What this benchmark does is it adds more. What it's doing dynamic resolution to keep the frame rate at a certain point. So it adds and changes resolution to keep frame rate, and then from there, that's how it basically rates what the build should be at the end. This should be very good for Call of Duty. That's the game that we're going to test after this. Okay, let's compare our results. So this is an i5. So on par with it, this is an i5-10400 with a RTX 2060. Ooh, check this out though. 3600X, lower score, and 3700X. Oh, 3800. No, check this out. So here's interesting. This is a 3800X with an RTX 2060 KO, and it's with an 100 points. So again, Newegg, $214. Still $50 more than this particular CPU. And if you look at the results, we're within 100 points of that, and even the 3800X, which is, again, with the 2060 KO, even the 3800X, which is, this is with a 2060 KO, within 150 points. So here we are right here. We're running at 104 frames per second. So we're at 123 frames right now. $115 frames. We'll check the settings here in a second. That was a good shot. I actually looked like I was pro on that one. Okay, so let me check. Let me see. Here's our settings. So right now we are at high. We're at a high and we're running easily at 100 frames per second. Oh, we're gonna have somebody come in there. So yeah, again, I feel like this does a pretty good idea in terms of showing you what performance. Oh man, I'm out of freaking health. Oh, I need to reload. Okay. So there we go. That shows you, I mean, all in all, that shows you pretty well in terms of what the performance is going to be like on this game in terms of just overall. There you go. You got to see a couple games. So, like I said, where did we basically end up? Again, we saw very similar performance to the 3700X with the exact same CPU. I mean, exact same GPU. Just slightly less. We saw Call of Duty, 100 frames per second, easily, and with room to go from high to medium to whatever it was, if you really wanted to, at 1080p if you wanted to play competitively. And at the same time, it's all for $1,000. From a gaming and streaming standpoint, this is a great option for a PC at that price. So that's kind of it for the show. Thank you for the stream. I want you guys to have a great night, and we will see you guys tomorrow starting at 6:30 p.m. Bye, guys.